So that's a pretty big. That's pretty
when
big.
you take all that aside,
how do you do
though,
all that and then go broke?
Hello, I'm Sam.
I'm Brandon.
And this is the Middleton Methods podcast, where you get to be a fly on our wall to get practical tips, gain insight, and laugh at our expense.
Hardy, hard.
Oh my gosh.
What is up, everybody?
Hey, what's going on?
It is raining here in southern South Carolina.
It is so rainy and so wonderful at the same time. Which leads into our madness of the week, which is the lack of madness.
Middleton
I guess it's
Madness.
madness, but it's like a different
I'll
kind
give
of
you some madness. I forgot our microphones.
Oh, gosh,
When
you're
we're going-
so right. Oh, my goodness. Okay.
She's going to get mad at me, y'all.
I know. I said I didn't want to talk about this on the podcast this week, but now that you've brought it up, so we're on a little
Retreat.
Kidless retreat, just husband and wife time. We've thought we're gonna go and bang out all this work on our book and record a couple of podcasts and then just enjoy the rest of the week, do some real estate and just enjoy the rest of the week, relaxing with each other, sleep until 7 in the morning and not have all the responsibilities of the kids for a few days. And we get all the way to our destination, and mind you, we get to the airport, and Brandon's suitcase is heavy. I'm pretty sure that he's got the equipment in there, so I didn't think to micromanage him and check in and make sure that he packed our microphones because his suitcase was a lot heavier than mine. I guess you just packed a lot of extra options. I don't know. But anyway, we get to where we're going, and there are no mics.
None.
Nothing.
My bad.
Yep, nothing to record. Nothing to record the podcast.
Probably one of the most important things for us to bring outside of our laptops.
It's like forgetting your toothbrush or your underwear. It's important stuff here. It's important. It was very important. It's one of those things you just don't not bring anymore. It comes on every trip. Trip.
Yep.
Are you listening to me? Every trip.
Big shout out to Best Buy. We had to drive 40 minutes outside of the boondocks to find a Best Buy, but they had a...
And spend, $50 more on something than we needed to because it's Best Buy.
We got a backup mic now, so we're good. Obviously, we're here recording it, and we got our Blue Yeti microphone, and we're good to go.
Yeah, it's not as good as the lavalier mics, but it will work for this week. We have it all the way jacked up to Brandon's face since he talks quieter than me, and then I'm sitting clear across the couch from him because I'm just a loud talker anyway. So hopefully the sound is good this week. Hopefully we got our fingers crossed that after we talk to you guys for 45 minutes to an hour, we don't have to do this all over again because you can't hear us or something crazy like that.
No, we're all good. Do you want to catch them up on where we're at, what we're doing?
Just the quick and dirty, because we don't want to spend too much time. The madness was that we didn't have our mic, but now there's a lack of madness this week because we're just, it's raining a lot, so we have to be really flexible. Basically, if it's not raining, we are out. We are in the car going, I don't care what we're doing, but we're doing something because we are really, really tucked away. I was originally looking for a place in the Caribbean for us to go, some beachy place, but we got this news that we could take this trip really last minute for the people that were helping us with the kids and taking the kids from us. And it didn't leave a lot.
Big shout out to Amanda, by the way.
Yeah, and Adrienne. Thank you, girls. But it didn't leave for a lot of time to find a place that we would want to go to in the Caribbean. So a lot of places were booked, and I was spending way too long looking for something, and then I finally found this one hotel, and I don't know why we can't get a plane to this island in the Caribbean, but there was literally no way to get there. So I started thinking there's got to be somewhere in the U.S. within a couple of hours that we could fly to without wasting a whole day of travel, getting over to Cali or something. And so I did. We chose Charleston, South Carolina, of all places.
Mm-hmm.
So crazy. And
gets even crazier.
What? Oh, yes.
So you find South Carolina, and then you're looking for...
Well, I had a couple of cities, but I've heard so many good things about Charleston that I was yeah, okay. Let me see and poke around at hotels and see if there's anything that really gets me excited to stay. And this is the first city that I actually start doing research in. And when I type the best hotels in Charleston, the Middleton Inn pops up. Could it get any weirder? So I was all right, the signs are there. I get it. I get it. We're going to Charleston, South Carolina. So I delivered the news to Brandon. He thought I was so weird. He's like, Charleston, South Carolina? Why are we going there?
Not exactly a vacation destination, but it actually has been really cool. It's like...
But these days, like, you know, our lives are so go, go, go. I started thinking, like, this could be a really beautiful trip. Like, we could just slow down instead of speed up like we always do.
Down.
And that's exactly what we've done. It has been, like, now I'm thinking, like, next time we go away, what other, like, slow, semi-boring sounding area are we going to that's actually really beautiful and gives us everything that we need? So that's the madness of the non-madness.
The rain has been, like, really a blessing. We're in this, like, we're on a plantation, a Middleton plantation from, like, what, 1800s? Or something like that,
yeah.
It's like many generations, the Middleton family.
It's like we took a step back into time. We're staying in this, like, it's not an old room because the in part, that's all new buildings or newer buildings. But it's
like a cabin, though. There's wood
like
all over the walls.
Yep.
Tons of windows. You just see nothing but the
trees behind us, and it's awesome.
And
so
it's
anyway,
pouring.
Now we're packing up. We're getting ready to go home, start fresh again, and get going. And we feel we're ready. Mm-hmm. We're ready. It's been a great, great week. So that's where we're at, guys. I'm glad you could join us here. And if you've never checked out Charleston, South Carolina, like, put it on your bucket list of places to go because it's a cool place. We're enjoying it so far.
Awesome.
All right, so we had this request come in, which leads us into our topic today, which is the American Dream. I know we just talked about this recently. Was it just 2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah,
we did the American Dream
Scam Part 1.
And this week, we're going to keep diving into it more because we had actually a few people reach out to us and say they wish they had heard us talk a little bit more. They gave us their feedback about which things they wanted to hear more about. And that is what we're delivering to you today. And I'm excited about it because we actually could have gone on longer. Yeah, and we really just brushed over the surface on the last podcast. So if you haven't heard the American Dream Part 1, you may want to just pause this and go catch yourself up and then come back to the American Dream Part 2. If you've already heard it, awesome. Glad you're here. Let's get started. Why don't you lead this off today? Because I'm probably going to get pretty fired up off of anything that we could talk about with this topic because
I just want to stress the importance of it. I mean, it is definitely a topic. We will. This is kind of an underlying tone, I think, of our show in general for the most part because, you know, it's about creating a lifestyle and creating financial freedom and, you know, freedom of your time for you and your family and your legacy. And the bill we've been sold with the American Dream is pretty much a scam now more than ever. So we went into kind of the origin of the American Dream, where it came out of, what the founding fathers actually, you know, kind of defined it as. And then we had this article from USA Today that's been a very popular one that's been cited a lot about how much the American Dream really costs. And they broke down the $130,000 a year number. And so we had some questions, basically, right? What, you know, if you look at this article, if you want to bring up some of the stats, you know, it talks about the type of house you would live in, the cars you drive, you know, one vacation a year, how much you'd put away towards retirement and stuff. And one of the things was to ask them, like, when you look at that, is that, does that look like the American Dream to you, or can you do with less and, you know, be happy with your American Dream, or do you think it requires more?
Yeah, so the argument, for argument's sake, was that you don't need to have that much money to survive. Like, that was what one of the guys contested in an article, like, basically fighting this USA Today article. And so on the last podcast, just to recap real fast, we said, sure, you can survive on less, but the whole point is to be living the American Dream, and how the American Dream more and more is becoming a non-reality, right? It's more of like survival of the fittest. Good luck in all you do. If you're not planning for your future, you could be bagging groceries when you're 80. And what are the things that you're doing to prevent that from happening if you don't want to live that life? So
and my argument is $130,000 isn't the American Dream. It's not enough because it doesn't even account for what happens if, you know, the breadwinner of the family or one of you loses a job for 6 months or a year? Or what if somebody gets sick and has really high medical bills? That doesn't account for any of that stuff. So what did you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think like when you're thinking about providing yourself with the American dream, if you're living by this term of 130 a year, yeah, I mean, they account for taxes, they account for your housing expenses, they account for what you're putting into retirement, everything's in there. So they're saying like you could retire, decent as long as you're making 130K a year. But Brandon's right. If you go and lose your job like tomorrow and you were out of work for 6 months, what becomes really like, it could literally destroy a life, because you're not now only 6 months behind on that American dream. You're also all that extra time behind. You lost all that time that you've been out of work. You also lost not only the income that you now have to make up, but many things these days have interest or late payments and stuff like that tacked on. So if you're not paying your cell phone bill,
It'll take you more than 6 months to catch up.
Yeah, it's going to take you way more than 6 months to catch up. If you have a credit card bill with a 18% rate, and you have, $10,000, $20,000 on your credit card bill that you thought you were okay just, having some kind of balance and paying the minimum. Well, guess what? If you're out of work now and don't have that income coming in, that's going to be 18% that's tacking up on that every single month. Not even to mention, when you're in business for yourself, it gets even crazier, because you're supposed to be paying estimated taxes every quarter for your business, but they base it off of what you made the year before. So even if you're making less money, or let's say your client drops out or something and you're not making that money, you're still obligated to pay the estimated taxes unless you don't think you're going to have it by the end of the year. Because if you don't pay the estimated tax by the certain time, does this make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's more advanced than...
If you don't pay your estimated tax by a certain time, at the end of the year, they're going to go, hey, you didn't pay that $20,000 in estimated tax that you were supposed to pay by June 15th, and now you have to pay interest on that through the whole end of the year.
Right. So if your income dips, or you lose your job, or you incur extra expenses due to some sort of tragedy, you are SOL. So one of the things that we highly recommend, and what was told to us early on, was as fast as you can, save up at least 6 months, preferably a year's worth of bills. And that doesn't mean savings like you're putting your 10% away for your retirement or your nest egg. This isn't investment money. This is in addition to that money that you're putting aside, college kids money. In addition to that savings, you need to have a separate savings. And it's very important that it's liquid, because if you do lose a job, or you get in a car accident, you have these unexpected bills, you need to be able to access that savings immediately to pay current bills. So make sure that it's in a savings account or a money market account, in the safe, like just somewhere that it's liquid. But that would be at 130 a year.
Last one, right? It was the 130K. We were going with like the average number of what they're saying you should save, and that's $11,000 a month. So with those numbers in mind, you would need to have at least $66,000 in savings to support that lifestyle for 6 months should anything go south in your finances. However, what we challenged you to do on the last podcast, the American Dream Scam Part 1, was to figure out what your American dream is. Because for us, for example, $130,000 a year is not living the American dream to us. We actually require more to satisfy the things that we want in life. And so what we have to have as a nest egg for 6 months to a year is significantly higher. So you have to sit down, and if you haven't done it already, why not? It's been a few weeks since we told you to do it the first time. Like, make the time to sit down and start to figure these things out. And if you have already, what are the steps you're taking to make sure that you have that 6 months to a year set aside to put yourself in the position where if you need to dip into those reserves, they are there for you.
All right. So what do you have to say to people who are, they're living they have their American dream, they're basically they're paying all those expenses, living the lifestyle they want, putting away, for the vacation, putting away for taxes, putting away for their retirement, what have you, but they don't have extra to put away for this 6 months of savings, how would you recommend that they start quickly, filling up that 6 months worth of savings?
I have two things. You'll probably agree with both of them. One is, how do you take a step back to take a big leap forward? So what can you do immediately to cut down on your expenses now so that in 6 months' time you have that money saved up? There's got to be some bills somewhere that you could shave a little here, shave a little there, and immediately start to put some money away. So that would be step one.
So make some short-term sacrifices,
Yes,
and then just go back to...
for the long-term gain. And then once it's there, then you go back to the way you're living because you already know you can afford that lifestyle. The other thing is just, how do you go make more money? Right? Which is what you always say, Brandon. I'll just go make more money. We want to get this or we want to get that.
So
cool.
You can pick up a side job, pick up a second job.
Yeah, which we talked about on Side Income Ideas, our podcast on Side Income Ideas. And you can go just make money other ways. Or
work for that promotion, or work towards taking the business to that next level. Add another service, add another product suite. What are clients or customers asking you for that you may not currently be offering? You may want to add that not for the sake of making more money, but maybe, especially a business. This is the beauty of being a business owner. You have control of things like this. You can say, you know what, I really don't want to add this service to my business suite because it requires more of my time, or it's not the most fun or whatever, but there's a demand for it. Okay, well, for the next, 3 months or 6 months, I'm going to take on this additional type of work, or I'm going to open this up to X number of customers or whatever for the short term. And then you don't have to offer it again. I see a lot of people do this around tax season. They'll take a product of theirs and they'll do a big major sale or a campaign to basically liquidate or have a very high amount of customers purchase that, just so they have the extra quick, $40,000 or whatever it is for their tax bill. Instead of, some of them don't save all year, then they just go and they have a sale towards the end, and then they got all their money for their taxes. So,
and where this gets really, really important to start thinking about and taking action on is it really starts to give you more options. Like, there's going to be times where, you want to take a step back to take a big leap forward, or it's not even in your control sometimes and you don't realize it. And when things happen that aren't exactly in your control, it feels like you're more in control of those decisions when you do have these cushions. It's a lot different to be living paycheck to paycheck and then your boss come to you and say, hey, we have to cut back on expenses or cut back on your hours because I'm in control of that decision and I'm your boss, right? That's a lot different than you saying, I understand you have to cut back on hours, and that's okay because I have 6 months of a cushion. I have time to go figure out what I need to figure out. If you're not going to be able to provide me with full-time hours anymore, I can actually take a minute to not stress out and think about, do I need to go get another job? Is this a short-term thing? Am I, what I mean on that? So, like,
you don't want to be in a position where you're desperate or you're relying on somebody else.
Right, and there's so much anxiety about money. That's where things start to get really weird. I mean, if you look, there were some things we were pulling up. It's so crazy. Like, we're just talking about, like, what is the American dream? And it really is different for everybody. But there's literally millionaires. Brandon's pulling up articles and doing all sorts of crazy stuff lately where he's pulling up, what was the thing that you found with Johnny Depp? Like, no offense, Johnny Depp. I mean, you still look great and everything, but we found out some very interesting information of, news sources saying that he's got no money.
Yeah, what was the amount of, oh man.
He's like worth like a $500 million or something.
He's made $650 million and is now broke.
What?
His monthly lifestyle cost him $2 million a month.
What?
So that's a pretty big. That's pretty big.
When you take all that aside,
how do you do all that and then go broke?
Yeah, right, exactly. So what was the moral of the lesson of everything that he just said was, you can live a $2 million a month lifestyle, but if you don't have any money, then, you're not really living the American dream. It just appears that he is, Luckily, he's a phenomenal actor. Hopefully, he'll just come out with some movie to help him get right back in the right direction. But that's something to think about. Like, what do you have as your backup, or what do you have in your pocket as your skill set? Because it is a lot easier for somebody uberly famous and skilled in being an actor like Johnny Depp is. It would seem like he could recover from a downfall like this, right? Like,
yeah, you just may have to sell off some
properties or do a couple more movies, but maybe he has to take a little less on his next movie deal than right. He's so accustomed to saying that he's worth right now, if he's that broke, right? But there's other examples of that, like in sports and other niches where people make a ton of money and they're not even clearing like $50,000 a year. Right? We were just talking with a friend recently that was saying somebody in sports, like they were making so much money, like they gross a lot of money, but then they net 50
Well, that's the importance
of
knowing what your American dream really is, because otherwise you could, if you do your math wrong, you could think, all right, I get this promotion, or I just, inherited some money, or I just hit the lottery, or whatever it is. You watch people who get big chunks of money and then they don't think like long term. They don't think, all right, what is the lifestyle that I really want to live? How long can I maintain that for? And just, planning accordingly. But you bring something up with the anxiety about money. I want to know, when we're in survival mode, the anxiety about money couldn't have, I don't think, been any higher. But as we've grown, and obviously we have a lot of friends who are financially very well off, do you feel like that anxiety really ever goes away? Like when you're making, millions of dollars, do you still worried about money, or do you ever reach this place where you're like, all right, I really don't have to think about it anymore, and
so
I don't have to stress?
That's an interesting question. There's two parts of that. There's always a little tinge of anxiety with money for me. I think that is like that with everybody. Nobody likes to see their finances depleting, right? That's not a comfortable feeling. Mm-hmm. So the immediate answer is yes, there's always anxiety about money. What's that saying? The higher the levels, the higher the devils, right? Like you go to the next level, you're making more money, there's more problems. With more money, more problems is another good quote that has to kind of go with that subject. So, but I will say this. As you and I have gotten more successful, as we've developed more skill sets, and our fallback plan went from, worst case scenario, we can both get jobs at McDonald's and pay the bills. And now it's like, worst case scenario, we can do a little consulting, or we can just go turn a few more real estate deals in a month.
Or start another business.
Right. Or we could start another, we just know now that there's no turning back. Like we have built our value in the market where any change in our income can get thrown our way, and we're very resilient. We have, the savings backed up to support our household financially, so we don't stress about how the kids are eating next week. And then on top, because we know how important that was, so we made sure to do that a couple years back. So there's no turning back on there. But if we make risks and take risks that end up not being in our favor, because we're not always in control of the outcome, right? Sometimes we take risks and it does depend on other people holding up to what they say they're going to do. And if they don't, Brandon and I have been in situations where people don't hold up. You put trust in other people, and it doesn't end up going our way necessarily. And what's the beautiful
it's like
part
trusting
of that,
your employer is going to give you a promotion every year.
Every year,
but partner.
You just assume you're getting a raise every year, but it's not always the case if the money's not there, right? So the beautiful thing about it, though, is there always anxiety about money? Yes. Immediately, yes, but then when you actually have those things set up in place, it's not as stressful.
It's different.
It's right. It's just a little different. It's like, okay, we have, X amount of time to recover, regroup. Let's take a minute and not stress out about it, and just think let's not focus on the problem that income source isn't there. Let's just focus on the solution. How are we moving forward? What are we doing to put ourselves back in a place that we want to be? And that's basically how we've lived the last 5, 6, 7, maybe even 7 years in our business. I'd say definitely the last 5 years in our business. So we've been really focused on that, and it works very, very well. It's a system that works almost flawlessly.
So what I heard you say is there's three parts of this, 3 ways for you to not have as much anxiety about money. So if you want to get rid of it, good luck. It'll never really go away. Maybe when you're like, older, or maybe like towards the end of your earning lifetime, right? Like if you earn until you're 50, 60 and then you retire, maybe in those later years you won't have anxiety because you've spent a whole lifetime, saving and investing properly. But until then, there's 3 things that I heard you say that will help. One is to have that savings, just having that liquid cash in the bank, whatever that number is, whether it's 6 months or, I had some friends who are like, I don't care how much I'm spending. If I always have $1 million in cash, I'm like, okay, well, how about that? So whatever that number is that makes you feel secure, because it really is just a feeling, and there's no such thing as that security. But number 1 would be the savings. Number 2, knowing that, honing your skills. Like my grandmother would always tell me, like, get a good education because no one will ever be able to take that away from you. You'll always have a fallback plan. If you have a really good education, you'll always be worth something in the marketplace to some other employer, right? As an entrepreneur, I took that as develop more skills, become a good salesperson, become a good marketer, learn, online, technical things, because those skills in this, marketplace are always going to be in demand. So improve your skills. Don't just be the whatever you do for a job, or don't only just have one thing that you're comfortable with. Always invest in yourself to get better, because you'll never lose. And then the third thing, you said that, having to rely on other people. And this has been a really kind of eye-opener for us. So we've always known it, but I think we've waited for a long time to finally step into that place where we've always had clients and we've always added value to other people's business outside of our real estate business and some of our earlier businesses. We've always had the other companies have always been in control of what our value is, and always been in control of paying us, right? Ultimately, they own the business, so if they ever just want to change providers or they ever want to make a financial change, we're at their mercy. So I think the third and probably the ultimate way to not have anxiety about finances or have that security is for you to be the one in the driver's seat. You to be the one that owns the company. You to be the one that has the customers and doesn't serve somebody else with customers. Now, that's not for everybody. I'd say that's like, you have to mature to that place. You have to grow your skill level. You have to, build your story before you can get to a place where you are that. But, with our book coming out and this podcast, obviously, this is us going from having, dozens of clients making millions a year to, fast forward years from now, we'll have, thousands, hopefully hundreds of thousands of customers doing the same thing. We'll always have that control. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so let's pull the curtain back a little bit, because if you are just getting started, the main point of it is don't put all your eggs in one basket. So we're saying your savings account is a basket. Yeah. Right? Like that's one of your baskets. And then the second basket is your job. Even if you're looking at yourself more of an entrepreneur, but maybe you only have 1 or 2 clients, you're relying on 1 or 2 people to pay your bills. You're not paying your own bills. They're paying your bills. Right. Always remember, they're paying your bills. They can choose to change that anytime on you. So that's basket number 2. So at least now you have 2 baskets. And now what Brandon is saying is to challenge you to develop a skill somewhere else. And we kind of like the 3 rule. We don't kind of like it. We love the 3 rule. Always have your time and efforts split between 3 things. And it doesn't mean they have to be split evenly. You're probably going to focus more primarily on the one that's actually paying your bills than the other ones, but always reserve a little bit of time for putting the stuff into your savings, or for doing things like real estate, where you can have a third income stream coming in, or that third basket. And the reason we say this is super important is as you become more of an entrepreneur, or you become more financially stable, and what we feel is financially stable is not how much you're making in your job, but having 3 different areas where if one thing falls off, you still have 2 other things to rely on for paying your bills, cushion in the pocket, et cetera, et cetera. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and the reality is there will always be one of those three that is in a lull or whatever. There's always seasons. If you just look at the market in general, right? We have a recession, we have a crash, then 10, 12 years later, it all resets again. It is a natural cycle. So there will always be like one thing isn't necessarily, one thing's a little lower now, and then 5 years from now, it's a little bit higher. So having that diversification means that you're never solely relying on one thing.
So, for example, with us, we have usually 3 to 4 things, and right now it's more like 3. So we have our savings, we have our marketing company, which exists of a couple of clients, and then we have our real estate company. Those are like our 3 things. And then Middleton Methods, obviously, this brand is building, but everything we're spending right now in that company is our time. We're giving away all this value for free right now. There are no upsells or anything like that at the moment. We're just looking to, gain more fans and inspire more lives. And eventually down the road, we'll have conferences and stuff where people can come and connect with us more in person, which is something we look forward to, but it's not our primary focus at the moment. Right now, it's just get you guys information. So those other 2 companies are the income sources, right? So this area is in a lull, right? That's what in a financial, we'd say financially, this area is in a lull. Even though we're content rich, right? We're spending a lot of our time and not making money off of it. But we are making money in other places to compensate for that. But again, even in our marketing company, if we have 3 clients and one drops out, we just lost, potentially like a third of that income. So our marketing company may see a little bit of a lull financially. But because we have all these things set up, we never feel the hit so hard that it could destroy our life, right? Like we're prepared for these things. We know they're going to happen. We don't let them affect us emotionally too much because at the end of the day, it's all just business. Like everything we're doing is to get us to our end goal. And so we're just staying focused on our end goal. If we had to pump the brakes in one area of our life to put the priority somewhere else, then we just are willing to embrace that change gears and keep going, because that is what the American dream is to us, is maintaining this kind of lifestyle and being happy along the way and having time with our kids and each other. So those are the things that are important. Now, Brandon, you brought up something that I wanted to hit on really fast. You were talking about your grandma's idea of going out, getting an education, and that's always being like the fallback plan on the corporate side of things. But let's talk about that for a minute, because when we were doing some of the research for the American Dream Scam Part 2, we were coming across articles of I pulled up the top 25
what jobs afford you
the American Dream according to USA Today's $130,000
You can't work at McDonald's and live the American Dream?
You cannot work at McDonald's. I don't even think you can own a McDonald's franchise. It's like you're barely scraping 6 figures, even as an owner.
I know the stat.
Yeah.
One McDonald's franchise owner, if they own one location, they on average profit $100,000. So the person that took out $1 million loan to buy a McDonald's makes $100,000 a year.
Well, that's not profiting because they have to pay back that $1 million loan first.
Right.
So
no, I think I take that into consideration.
Oh, okay. So, but what I did want to hit on is go get your college degree. Like the very 2 ones that pop up for that are doctor and lawyer.
Surprise.
Yeah, right. But think about it.
What if you don't like debating and you don't like taking care of
There's other things like software developers and stuff now, IT manager, although I'll protest that because I actually have somebody in my life that's an IT manager that does not clear 6 figures. So it's interesting. They're saying like, here's the average of what these people make, but there are people obviously that have to balance out that average. So when they say the average, doctor makes $180,000 a year, but that's because like radiologists make $500,000 a year. But then like a pediatrician,
radiologist.
Yeah, radiologists.
Oh my goodness.
And then like the ER surgeons, they make $250,000 to $300,000 a year. But then I don't want to say just a general physician because they're just as important, but they're the ones that see us the most often, and they're actually making a lot less than the guys in the ER. But where it becomes even more scary is the starting wages. for like a lawyer. The average lawyer makes $144,000 a year. That's combining private and public sectors. So if you're like a public defender, you're making more like 50 to 80 grand a year. That's not living the American dream according to USA Today. But you went to school and you did all this education, and hey, congratulations, you also took out $150,000 to $190,000 in debt for your college education if your parents couldn't afford to pay for your whole college career. So now you've left college, you're $150,000 to $190,000 in debt, and you're
6 to 8 years of your life in school.
Yeah, plus all the time in school. But the starting range for that lawyer is only $50,000 to $85,000. That's like, it's going to take you not only years to pay off your
You could be a lawyer living at home with mom still.
Yeah,
Just
right, for like 20 years. So it's really like when you look at these things, it gets even scarier, because even if you go and think, I'll go get a good paying job after I get my college degree, but then you're in debt for how many years? You're actually not living that American dream.
This is another reason why we say it's a scam.
Right. Yes, that's the point. It's just another thing. But anyway, the point is, these things are very important to look at. Financially, the only other thing we really want to challenge you on before we move on to Brandon's No BS business topics, like when you're thinking about what the American dream is to you, there's something that really resonated with me that I felt like we didn't hit on enough. But money is obviously something that we say is important. Like, you do need it to pay bills. You do need it to live the lifestyle that you dream to live. But it is more than just money. Like, the American dream is more than just having money in the bank and being able to brag that you have a nice salary. So think about it like it goes down to what's in your household, in your marriage, how you treat your kids, how your kids treat you. Like, all those things for us also mold into what the American dream is. And the reason I bring that up is because we're trying to think of some people. We were talking with our mentor recently, and we're trying to think of some things that, who do we know in our life that has done like very well financially, but their life's a mess, right? And we've had past clients that make really great money, but they don't have good marriages,
They make great money. They don't necessarily keep great money either.
Or they don't keep great money, right? That goes back to that like sports analogy where we're using and Johnny Depp earlier. But even people that don't have good relationships with their children because they're so busy going, and they make a ton of money, but they're on the road all the time.
Right. What's the point?
Right. They're never home. So they never see their kids. Like, what's the point then? You make great money. Congratulations. But you're like longing to spend more time with your kids at the park. Then you're not really living the American dream. You're just struggling to keep up with those financials that you've come accustomed to living to. And also, how good is your relationship with your wife or your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever, right? Like, it's more than just money. We have to set the standard to what we think is important in our marriage too. Mm-hmm. And not let that dip, where there may be seasons where marriage is not like, it's always a priority, but it might be like the back burner priority, right? But we always know like there's a minimum of effort. There's a minimum of things that we need to do for each other to make sure that we're satisfying each other and continuing to live the American dream, when we have to put our focus and efforts into other places that need priority, maybe financially or whatever, right? But then we also have to remember where we're at our finest and what are our goals, and stay focused on those goals as what's the American dream to us, where like every day on a perfect day, what does our marriage look like? What does our time with our kids look like? And making sure that we implement those things into our lifestyle as well.
Yeah, and think about where you're at in your family life too. Like, if you're in a new marriage, you may need to make sure that you don't overcommit on a business venture or overcommit at a job in order to reach the finances short term. You may want to take a little bit slower path to ramp up the finances of the business, so you make sure you're around to grow that marriage. Same thing with children. Your kids may be very young. This is why, in the last few years, Sam and I have gotten very what's the word I'm looking for? Very
awesome.
I want to say like cutthroat.
Oh.
Not like in terms of, we make decisions like, I don't have time to hum and haw or wait on other people. My kids are young, and I do not want to have regrets in 5 years, 10 years going, oh, I wish I was around for this, that, and the other, but I had to, make these sacrifices to grow the business or whatever. Like, no, it's not.
You know what it was in the past, and I'm going to just interject for a
second. So
second.
if you have older kids, you may be able to, your kids are out of the house maybe. You have a different, you may have extra time where you're like, all right, cool, I can put that time into something else. Or I can
But I actually want to challenge you that you never have the time, because
you make the time.
in the past, have the time to wait for these decisions to be made. Like in the past we were in like client situations where Brandon would be like, let's just give this, another few months, which would turn into 6. And then if we decided the relationship really wasn't beneficial anymore and we were going to part ways, those people would still want us to basically help them through a transition stage. But they already made us wait so long to make the decision that Brandon would then be like, come on, babe, we can't just burn the bridge and leave these guys hanging. We need to do this for another 6 months. But what it actually did was set us that much further behind in reaching our goals. Now, over the years, we're just less like tolerant of that, right? Tolerance, like a good word. Like, no, like we agreed on 3 months. If things are taking 6 and we've reached our capacity, like, I don't know what to tell you now. Like, if the arrangement's not working, it's not working. That's kind of where we're at these days. Like, we always have to have our house, our marriage, our kids. It's the most important thing to us, and that is priority. So at the end of the day, if it's not serving us in that area, then like, I don't know what's the right way to put it without sounding like totally bitchy about it, but I guess the reality at the end of the day is I love you, right? And I love you, but I'm talking about like working with people. Like, I put my heart and my soul when we have other relationships in our life, whether it's business or personal. It could be either one. I'm one of those guys that, like, it takes me a minute to get close and open up. But when I do, like, I got your back. But the second I feel like you burn me, I will literally not talk to you ever again. Like, I'm okay with separating, and to a fault maybe, but it served me for years, where Brandon is the very opposite. He's like,
I'm working on that with you.
Well, you are. We're working on that together, and we've actually found a really happy medium that works for our marriage. So now when we're in those positions with people that just, like, maybe it's just a negative person in our life, like, Brandon's tolerance for that negativity would be higher than mine would. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we found a good, pretty happy medium. Ultimately, I'd still like to just say, come on, let's move on. It's time to go. And we do give it a little bit more time, for Brandon, because that's what works for the two of us and our marriage. And that's important in keeping our American dream alive, is to find that balance between the two of us. So that's the other challenge, is to find what that happy medium is for you guys when you hit those bumps in the road. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I think we went on about that for quite a little bit more. I know there's one example that I can give. Do we have time to go into it, or should we just move on at this point? Just what it looks like when you don't have things right in your house. Let me just paint the picture. I'll make it 2 minutes or less, and then we'll just move on. So there's a situation of somebody that was very, very. This is what made us opened our eyes to this in the past. There was somebody very close to us in the past that made a ton. I mean, we're talking tens of millions of dollars a year they made in their business. But their life was in complete array at home. Their kids didn't respect them. They lived in 2 separate buildings on the same property. They didn't even sleep together, this husband and wife. They didn't ate meals together. They were alcoholics, like very bad alcoholics. They also had other bad habits that they couldn't get under control. They were verbally abusive to each other. But if you looked at these guys from the outside, it would be like, wow, they have it all. They have this beautiful house on the water, and they have 8 fancy sports cars in the driveway. And, they look like they're living this American dream because they have this beautiful family and all these fancy things. But
golden retriever and...
Because I knew these people so well, and Brandon knew these people so well, we did see them behind closed doors, and we could see that, making tens of millions of dollars a year was not just the American dream. Like, it goes so much deeper. And we're lucky that we got to see that earlier on in our relationship, because it really set the standard too. It's not just about the money, it's also what we hold near and dear to our hearts. And, long before we even would talk about having children, we already knew that what the relationship that they had with their children was actually very unhealthy, and it was something that down the road we were going to want to avoid. So I just wanted to share that, because if you can have an eye-opening experience that you can hang on to and remind you of why you do things the way you do things, like, you can hang on to that in the hard times too. But anyway,
I'm sorry, but
I
have to throw a quote. No, I just have to throw.
I jogged your memory on something. Go for it.
I just have to throw the quote. You saying that reminds me of, what good is it for someone to gain the whole world, but yet forfeit their soul?
Oh,
that's
yeah.
Really here. Like,
yeah,
you can
it's powerful.
gain all this, but if you lose the thing that's most important, what's the point? So, in your endeavors to grind towards that American dream or increase your finances or whatever, just look at the whole picture, please.
Yeah. All right, Brandon's no BS business tips. I actually have a question for you this week.
Cool.
So I'm throwing one in on my own.
Sam from Tampa.
Sam from Tampa wants to know, babe, if you could start all over, what would you do differently?
Oh boy, I would not spend so much time getting ready to get ready. So,
oh my gosh, are we hitting the start over button? I think we are right now. Okay, we're gonna hit it.
Yeah, just due to the nature of our business, I've always seen more in other people than I've seen for myself. I always see other people and I'm like, wow, you're so talented, or wow, I see so much potential in you. Let me take my skills and team and resources and put them behind you to lift you up. And that has been great, right? We've learned a lot of things. We've gotten a lot of perspective behind many other businesses that most people never get to see. Even other other business owners only see their business for the most part. They don't see what we've seen behind the scenes of many businesses. So I am grateful for that, right? I wouldn't reality, I wouldn't change anything, but if I had to change one thing for the sake of this question, it would be that, like, I pushed everybody else up, and it was probably largely to do with fear, right? We were fearful to do things earlier on. Confidence was a big thing, still something I frankly have struggled with lately and still work on. You work with people that are larger than life. You meet people, all of our friends, a lot of the successful people that we've been around with for over 10 years now, they're all usually 10 plus years older than us. So for me, it was always easy to be like, oh, I'm not there yet, so let me help you. You're already so many steps down the road. But I think those things definitely kept us from doing something like this, writing a book. Who are we to write a book? That's what I would think for so many years, right? I knew we had a story with so many stories. Jeez, yeah. Experiences in our lives have been crazy in the last, 16 years. We've done a lot in 16 years. But it hasn't been until the last probably few years where I've been like, I see it now. I see what all that was in preparation for. So as much as I say I would, if I could change it, I would take that away. I think it would have cut short all those experiences and stories that you'll hear about in our book and things like that.
Yeah, well, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Yeah. We definitely had to go through those growing pains and everything to get to where we are. I would accelerate it, of course, always. I'm always like, go, 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 but it's just my mentality. You're a little bit more of the, I think when your grandfather said, enjoy the journey as much as the destination, you really, really took that to heart. Because you definitely like to sit back and enjoy that journey. And you have to, it's funny because I say that about you, but you say that about me. Like, I make us stop to go have fun, which is not necessarily your idea of enjoying the journey, right? Your idea of enjoying the journey is, hey, you're 10 years older than me, let me help you reach your goals, and I'll reach mine along the way. Now it's transitioning more like, I got to focus on my stuff and the lives that we're directly impacting now, not through other people's eyes, which is cool, but that's a good insight, and thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I got one more question for you.
What's up?
Brian in DC sent in this question. Well, it's more like a statement. I'm just starting out, but I don't have a lot of cash. But as the saying goes, quote, it takes money to make money. So I'm spinning my wheels trying to figure out where I get the money to start my business. hire a team, and market online. Any advice you could give me would really help me out right now.
Cool. So I think a lot of people go the typical route of create a business plan and then go get a small business loan. I don't recommend that unless you have a widget, a product of some kind that needs money spent on actually producing it or buying inventory. Outside of that, I think you've got to come up with the money yourself. So in order of priority, I would probably say number one is reaching out to family and friends. Family and friends know you, trust you, and that's a big thing, right? If the bank doesn't trust you, they don't know you. That's why they want you to prove a whole bunch of things before they would, give you a loan, and they want you to, mortgage your house or put up collateral. So friends and family at first is always a good start, but I caution you to not borrow more than you need. I caution you that if you aren't confident that you'll be able to pay it back, it can create for some very awkward Thanksgiving holiday dinners, and you don't want that. So on one hand, it's great because also friends and family are probably not going to take you to collectors or report you, ruin your credit or anything. It'd be forgiving. So hopefully you have friends and family that, would work with you, if times did get tough or it took a little longer to get something off the ground. So it's kind of like my favorite place. That's where we started, but also the one that's also has the biggest air of caution. The second place to get money to start your business would be credit cards, especially right now. I've posted pictures. I can't believe the amount of credit card offers that we get in the mail. You probably want to do some research. I would Google the best credit cards to apply for. I would check your credit first, make sure you've done, some basic things maybe for a few months to make sure your credit score is as high as possible. But using your credit cards instead of to be a consumer and buy tchotchke, use it to buy courses, pay for travel, pay for inventory. That's another thing. Third would be if you do own a home, you can take out a home equity line of credit. Right?
Oof,
if you have equity in your home, you can borrow against your home. But again, all of these things, be cautious with. I love the analogy, especially with credit cards, is someone used to take their stack of credit cards on stage, explain it as these are your business partners. This is the equivalent of cash. This is the equivalent of your business partner. So you need to take care of them. You keep them in a safe. You are responsible with them. These are your first-time investors. That American Express is an investor. That Citi Card is an investor. So credit cards. And then finally, I prefer not to take on any debt if you don't have to. We started that way, and then we crashed and destroyed our credit. And it really wasn't the best, but it's all we knew. It's all we had. When we got back into real estate, for example, we put in a little bit of money, but if you listen to our podcast where we talk about our story with real estate, it's really about quickly getting into cash flow where the business funds itself. You don't want to be Snapchat and raise, like you see on Shark Tank and stuff, raise gajillions of dollars to go start your business. I think that's the most ridiculous thing ever, to raise money, to borrow a bunch of money to go start a business. You're asking for all these other investors to take a risk on your idea that you don't have the cash to risk yourself. So what we've done is we say, hey, we need this business and we need, 2 employees. Okay, those employees are going to cost X dollars. We need X dollars to pay our bills. So let me go find a way to create the value and go sell my services at X price because it will pay for these resources.
Yeah, that's a great one too, because I was going to say, when you hit on home equity lines and all that stuff, that makes me worried because as a wife, I'm just going to throw in there, I have to have full trust and confidence that you're taking out our money and you're going to go turn a profit on it. And in the past, you didn't do that, right? Like we had failed at that. It wasn't just you. I'm not going to put all that blame on you because it was our decision to do that. But if you're looking at most, I would say in most situations, it's maybe not that equal of a decision. So if you're in a situation where like you may be making the claim or whatever that you need to take this money out, like really you got to know with your wife or your spouse, if maybe it's your husband, if you're the wife taking out the business loan and starting your own business, that your spouse is supporting you on this decision thick and thin no matter what. But the second part is like, I'm going to throw in that mindset is so major because you have been a beast when it comes to I will succeed no matter what. Like we are going to succeed ethically, but not no matter what. Like ethically, we're not going to ride the gray line, but we are going to succeed in business and be entrepreneurs. And you were like that from the jump. And if you don't have that like die hard, I'm going to freaking do this attitude, then you're probably going to fail. So like if you're not quite there mentally, if you don't have the confidence that you may trip over your feet along the way and make a ton of mistakes, which you will actually, it's not like a maybe thing. Like you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but if you don't have that mindset that you're going to get back up and do it again, you're going to get back up and do it again, you're going to get back up and do it again, you're going to get back up and do it again, what's the point?
Right.
And go ahead.
I would challenge you, what's the name, Brian? I would challenge you, Brian, to wait to borrow money. I mean, if we're talking about a few $1,000s, that's one thing. But if you're talking about significant money to start a business, I would challenge you to go out and show proof that you can make sales first, generate income first, and then use that to help you borrow money if it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, so that was going to be the second point I was going to make to what you said, babe, which was, like if you're like building the team and using your own resources and basically like, you have to start from somewhere, but you kind of need to validate why you are the authority in this niche. Like why we were in this situation in the past, right? Let's break it down. Why would people want to hire us as a marketing firm when we're brand new? Why would they trust Brandon in the decisions? And we had to go out and prove ourselves, right? We had to go show that we would help with people's online campaigns. We had to show that we were going to make them money, and we were willing to put our money where our mouth was. We didn't go out and say, hey, can we get a business loan? And here's our business plan. And we plan on being these expert marketers in the industry. No, like we did the research, we put in the time, and we worked for not as much as we were not as much as we thought we were worth to get the ball moving. And as we gained that credibility, we were able to negotiate our terms a lot easier and faster, and build our value and our worth for our potential clients because we already had a track record. And then there's even the point where you're going to be ready to go to the next level. So let's think like 5 years, 10 years down the road, you're going to be ready to take it to the next level. And in order to really start getting like the big dogs in the game, you're almost going to have to be willing to put your money where your mouth is again. And we had that happen with us where we had done marketing for years and we were ready to take it to the next level. And we literally paid out of our pocket for almost a year to help a client put the right systems in place because their systems were a mess. So instead of going into their business and saying, we can make you money right now, we said, we know we can make you money, but your systems have to be prepared to
basically
support.
We'll invest.
Right. So we're going to invest our time and our resources knowing that in a couple of years or a few years down the road, when these systems are set up correctly, that we'll then get the value that we know we deserve to make financially now. But you guys are, you're big dogs, and it's a little harder to get into those, into the doors of companies that are that big or have that much of a face already. So in order to do that, you may have to be willing to take a step back again. And we have done that successfully as well. So there's that to think about even in the future, which is really exciting. That's like exciting stuff, right?
Yep.
I think it's exciting. I don't mind ever taking a step back to take a big leap forward. It's always like very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Liberating?
Not liberating. It's very fulfilling when we're willing to like give more. No, but I mean, there's always like you're going to have a gain in the future, but you're willing to give in order to see that gain happen.
But again,
for the right relationships.
Brian, watch Shark Tank, an episode of Shark Tank. The guys that get the money are the ones that have sales and already have a track record. The ones who are asking for money to start a business and all they have is an idea. They don't have any sales yet. They usually don't get the money. So.
Brian, I'm out. That's like exactly what they would say. If you go in with nothing, that's what they're going to say. I'm out. Right. Yeah, that's a great one. All right, let's move on to the marriage minute real fast. I guess this is like inspired by our trip maybe more, but this is like stuff that we do pretty often in our household, but I just wanted to share with you guys this week. Instead of a cool quote or something, I have a challenge that I've set up for you guys. All you married lovers out there. And you know what? Heck, even if you're just dating somebody, like this applies to you too. You should always be laying the foundation of what could be in your future. Maybe marriage bells are out there somewhere for you, and you should be practicing these things even with your boyfriend or your girlfriend. But I want to challenge you guys to go sit down. It's for both of you guys to do. This isn't, I mean, you can do it by yourself and, you know, inspire the other person to do it if they're totally gung-ho against doing something like this. But it would be more fun if you guys do it together. But go and write down 5 to 10 things that your partner does that makes you feel loved, and then also 5 to 10 things that they do that turn you on. And so I'll give you a couple of examples. Well, you know what? We'll start with this. I'll spare you the major details of what B does to turn me on.
Please do.
Because it'll make him turn like really beet red and he'll get all weird about it. But I will say this. When we were coming on this trip, actually, when he was out of town for the funeral, I was out with my girlfriend who came in to spend time with me and the kids. And we took a girls' day and had the sitter come just so we could just go have some time together. We accidentally walked into this little shop, and as we're checking out, there's these little bills at the counter, and they say, Brandon's already making a face. That's already too much information.
You're really gonna tell him this?
There's this little bell that says ring for sex, and it's like this little red bell, and you ring it, and obviously it's supposed to be ring for sex. So I brought it on this trip, and I gave it to Brandon as a little present. He's already beat red. I gotta make this short and sweet and to the point. So anyway, we've been having fun with that. So like, I'm pretty sure that I gave him something that turned him on, right? Like that was something that kind of got things going over there. So I challenge you guys to find little things about each other that turn you guys on and share it with each other, right? It's not to keep for yourself. It's something to share with your spouse. And then also on the love side, Brandon already knows many of these things because I make it very clear to tell him, because he continues to do these things over and over for me. The more I tell him how much I appreciate the things he does, the more he wants to do those things for me. So, you know, I love when he buys me flowers because when I see them, they make me smile. I think of him, right? And it makes me smile. So I actually would never get sick of there always being fresh flowers in the house. I love that he sends me text messages in the morning. It's the first thing I do. I used to get up and go to the bathroom first thing in the morning. Back in the day, there were no cell phones. Now I reach over and I grab my cell phone. Well, the first thing I see is a text message from B, just like how much he appreciates me, or how good of a mom I am, or how much he loves me, how much I do for him as a wife, or even a business partner. Like those things, I immediately wake up. The first thing I think about is him, and I'm inspired.
Sometimes just a simple emoji too.
Yeah, sometimes it's just like, you know, that heart, the emoji with the heart eyes. Like you like to use that one a lot, and I use like the kiss lips one. So it's just like just little things like that make me think of him, or they inspire me to love him more every day. It's really, really powerful to do. So my challenge to you is to just put it into action. Don't say you're gonna do it. Don't think about, oh, that was a really cute idea, like I'll go do that some other time. No, like take the time, take a freaking half hour today and go write down these 5 to 10 things in each area, love and sex, and then share them with your spouse, your lover, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever it is, and like have a little fun with it this week. Like challenge each other to go do these things, because it's only going to bring more love and sex into your life. So that's my marriage minute. Sorry I made you turn red and got you all embarrassed. He actually was so not wanting to talk about it. It made him so uncomfortable that he didn't even have a joke. Like he just shut down and looked looked down at the floor. So
anyway, awesome guys. We appreciate you tuning in this week. Please take a minute and help us continue to get those reviews up. Go give us a star rating.
Yes, our reviews have been growing, and we're so like, babe, I interrupted you, but I have to, because I'm truly, 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 truly grateful for all you guys that tune in. You've been sharing our podcast. You've been listening to us. You're telling us what we're talking about that's working for you, and you're helping us be better for you. It really means the world to us. We're totally stepping into our gift right now, and we couldn't be doing this without you guys. So thank you so much for the continued support, and keep sending us in your feedback and your questions so we can continue to give you the best resources and information that we can.
Awesome. All right, well, I will sign us out here. Like we always say, marriage isn't easy. It does take work, but we're putting in the work to make it work. So take what you want, what you don't want, don't take.
And I challenge you, even if there's something that you don't want to take, you probably should take that even more. So take that.
What she said. All right, take care, guys. See you next time.
Bye.
I can make the pain disappear, and I can erase the past. Oh, I can make the future shine so bright, and I can make right now